Texas Principles 2 Exam Practice Questions with Correct Answers, Champion School of Real Estate. Question 1. Should shellfish, which is labeled frozen but received thawed, be accepted? No, if the shellfish has thawed during shipping. 135F, 57C. 5. Temperature control system. Question 2. You should never thaw food ____________________________________________________________________________________________________________________ vomiting, at room temperature, sore throat. Question 3. What is the proper way to hold glassware when serving? Wipe with a wet cloth, using the same knife for everything. The shells are clean, from the base or underneath. Question 4. What is the best way to prevent pest infestations? Cleanliness and vigilant monitoring, washing hands, ordering less food, hives. Question 5. When storing food, what is the best way to prevent food waste? Yes, as long as it is cooked immediately. Temperature control system. First in first are stock rotation, cooking frozen food directly. Question 6. What is the best alternative to safely cooling foods if you do not have a blast chiller? It looks nice. Use an ice bath, bacteria on a cutting board, washing hands. Question 7. Which of the following is covered by health codes? Washing hands. 2. Licensing requirements for maintenance workers. Leaving the back door open. Question 8. Which of the following are common food allergens? Washing hands, reusing gloves, a clean kitchen, wheat and shellfish. Question 9. Finding dead insects or mouse droppings in the kitchen indicates which of the following? Washing hands. Yes, as long as it is cooked immediately. Pest infestation. Anyone on staff. Question 10. When storing products, it is important to make sure they are located ____________________________________________________________________________________________________________ underneath them, washing it frequently. It looks nice. 6. In the refrigerator. Question 11. In which situations are food service workers not required to wash their hands? After their shift, reusing gloves. 135F, 57C. Wipe with a wet cloth. Question 12. All of these are ways to prevent the spread of germs from food service workers except not using a straw when drinking. Gloves must be changed every 4 hours. Washing hands. Anyone on staff. Question 13. If an employee gets cut while preparing food, it is best practice to using strong chemicals. Apply a bandage and cover it with a single-use glove. Wipe with a wet cloth. Gloves must be changed every 4 hours. Question 14. Eating undercooked chicken can cause salmonellosis. Leave it on the counter. Washing hands. Cutting boards. Question 15. Which is a sign of a possible insect infestation? Washing hands. Temperature control system. Cooking frozen food directly. Chewed electrical cords. Question 16. If storing raw poultry in the same refrigeration unit as ready-to-eat raw foods, where should the poultry be placed? Hepatitis A biological. On a shelf below the other foods. Using the same knife for everything. Question 17. When receiving raw eggs, you must reject the delivery if the temperature of the kitchen, there is a foul odor, bacterial, the price of the item. Question 18. Which of the following do not need to be sanitized? Employee hygiene, using a dirty towel, single-use articles, anyone on staff. Question 19. Which of the following does not influence the effectiveness of a chemical sanitizer solution? The price of the item, cost, clean floors, vomiting. Question 20. What must be marked on ready-to-eat food containers, TCS? Apples and bananas, biological, yes, as long as it is cooked immediately. Date when the product needs to be consumed, sold, or discarded. Question 21. Which is not a symptoms of foodborne illness? A clean kitchen, dry skin, menu prices, ignore it. Question 22. Which of the following symptoms does not need to be reported to the person in charge before working? Hepatitis A, employee hygiene, headache, using strong chemicals. Question 23. Food that is cooked, cooled, and reheated must be reheated to 165 F, 74 C, within 2 hours. Anyone on staff, using strong chemicals. The shells are clean. Question 24. Correct glove use requires which of the following? Hives, washing hands before putting on gloves, temperature control system, droppings in corners. Question 25. The food code is created by which government agency? Food and Drug Administration, biological. The shells are clean. 2. Question 26. How can hair be controlled during food preparation? Bacteria on a cutting board. Hepatitis A, clean floors, by wearing a hairnet or a hat. Question 27. All of the following indicate a possible pest infestation except dust underneath a storage shelf, using the same knife for everything, the price of the item, bacterial. Question 28. What is the best way to avoid cross-contamination? Hives, use a clean cutting board and utensils between cutting raw meat and fresh veggies. Temperature control system, vomiting. Question 29. Which of the following could be considered an example of physical contamination? Inspects restaurants, elderly people, leave it on the counter, a bandage falling into a prepared dish. Question 30. Which group is least susceptible to foodborne illnesses? 5. Healthy teenagers, leave it on the counter, cooking frozen food directly. Question 31. What is the best example of physical contamination? Inspects restaurants, before their shift, a strand of hair falling into a food during preparation, leaving the back door open. Question 32. Which is a type of contamination in a food establishment? Using a dirty towel, in the refrigerator, all of the above, temperature control system. Question 33. In order to prevent pest infestations, it is important to chewed food packaging, employee hygiene, make sure the lid of the garbage container fits on tightly, before their shift. Question 34. What is the proper method for cleaning dirty utensils? Wipe with a wet cloth, wash, rinse, sanitize, air dry, temperature control system, water temperature. Question 35. What does the term temperature control refer to? Apples and bananas, washing it frequently, reusing gloves, the temperature required for maintaining food safety. Question 36. What is a point of focus during health inspections? Using a dirty towel, yes, as long as it is cooked immediately, wipe with a wet cloth, all of the above. Question 37. Which of the following actions could be a source of cross-contamination? Hives, wiping your hands on a dirty apron between handling different foods, leave it on the counter, above ready-to-eat foods. Question 38. TCS stands for Time/Temperature Control for Safety Food, 135 F, 57 C, yes, as long as it is cooked immediately, bacteria on a cutting board. Question 39. What sort of damage do rodents cause? 2. All of the above, leaving the back door open, using the same knife for everything. Question 40. Which of the following statements about glove use is false? Ordering less food, gloves can be used instead of hand washing, in the refrigerator, apples and bananas. Question 41. A foodborne outbreak occurs when ________ or more people become ill after eating the same food, vomiting, using strong chemicals, washing it frequently. 2. Question 42. Which of the following symptoms is not associated with an allergic reaction? Elderly people, using a dirty towel, screaming, cooking frozen food directly. Question 43. What is the process of slacking? Allowing frozen foods to thaw out before deep frying. The shells are clean. Temperature control system. Ordering less food. Question 44. What type of illness of hepatitis A? Vomiting, viral, bacteria on a cutting board, cutting boards. Question 45. What is the role of the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention in maintaining food safety? It looks nice. Gloves must be changed every 4 hours. Provides knowledge about the sources of foodborne illnesses. Ordering less food. Question 46. Why is it necessary to clean vent food filters on a regular basis? It prevents the buildup of grease that can drip into food. Using the same knife for everything. Employee hygiene. Cutting boards. Question 47. What internal temperature does turkey need to reach before being served? Cooking frozen food directly. Bacterial. 165 F. Elderly people. Question 48. Who can apply pesticides in a good service establishment? Wipe with a wet cloth. Certified operators. Leaving the back door open. By the rim. Question 49. A food worker at bar was diagnosed with E. coli and has not shown symptoms for a couple of days. What must her manager do? Restrict until regulatory approval is obtained. Exclude until regulatory approval is obtained. Allow the worker to resume her normal duties. Require her to wear single-use gloves at all times. Question 50. A large container of potato salad has been removed from cold holding at the correct temperature. How long can the food be safely held without temperature control? As long as it does not exceed 70 degrees Fahrenheit 21 degrees Celsius. 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. Question 51. To prevent providing shelter for pests, how far above the floor should equipment be raised? 2 inches, 4 inches, 6 inches, 8 inches. Question 52. At a minimum, how far must tabletop equipment be raised if it is not sealed to the counter? 2 inches, 4 inches, 6 inches, 8 inches. Question 53. Which symptoms is a food worker required to report to his/her manager? A sore throat, stomach cramps, sensitivity to light, an infected wound. Question 54. A food worker needs to measure the temperature of a casserole. Where must the thermometer be placed when measuring this cooking temperature? In the middle of the casserole, on the top of the food surface, in several areas of the casserole, on the edge of the casserole dish. Question 55. What is a sign of a cockroach infestation? Gnaw marks, nesting material, strong oily smells, strong smells of ammonia. Question 56. Where can utensils be stored? Restrooms, locker rooms, mechanical rooms, food preparation areas. Question 57. Which confirmed food worker illness must a manager report to the regulatory authority? Giardia, Shigella, Campylobacter, Listeria monocytogenes. Question 58. A food worker is preparing eggs that will be hot held for service. What is the minimum internal temperature the eggs must reach for at least 15 seconds? 135 degrees Fahrenheit 57 degrees Celsius. 145 degrees Fahrenheit 63 degrees Celsius. 155 degrees Fahrenheit 68 degrees Celsius. 165 degrees Fahrenheit 74 degrees Celsius. Question 59. A food worker is monitoring a self-service station. What must she remind customers to do? Try the salad bar options. Use clean dishes each time they get food. Prevent children from serving themselves. Cough and sneeze into the crook of their arm. Question 60. What is a requirement for hand-washing sinks? Hand lotion dispenser. Linens for drying hands. Warm water at least 110 degrees Fahrenheit 43 degrees Celsius. Sign reminding workers to wash their hands. Question 61. Which confirmed food worker infection must a manager report to the regulatory authority? Rotavirus, borreliosis, hepatitis A, toxoplasmosis. Question 62. An employee is cooking roast beef in the oven. What temperature must the roast beef reach for at least 4 minutes while cooking? 135 degrees Fahrenheit 57 degrees Celsius. 145 degrees Fahrenheit 63 degrees Celsius. 155 degrees Fahrenheit 68 degrees Celsius. 165 degrees Fahrenheit 74 degrees Celsius. Question 63. What event would require a food worker to restock a pot of soup at a self-service station? The handle of the soup ladle fell in. A customer sneezes over the sneeze guard. A customer remarks that it's less than half full. The pot has been displayed for 2 hours without temperature control. Question 64. What must be located in, or immediately adjacent to, a toilet room in a food establishment? Tile floors, a hand-washing sink, a food preparation sink, a cleaning supply cabinet. Question 65. An employee at a cafe tells his manager that he had diarrhea last night but is feeling better. How should the manager handle this situation? Allow him to return to normal duties. Restrict his activities to bussing tables. Restrict from working with ready-to-eat foods. Exclude until symptoms have been gone 24 hours. Question 66. A food worker is about to partially cook a large batch of chicken stir-fry. What must he do immediately before cooling the food? Temperature. Freeze the food. Hot hold the food for 2 hours. Heat the food for no longer than 1 hour. Cook the chicken to its minimum internal. Question 67. Which food item can be reserved if it has been in possession of a customer, but not used? Breadsticks, bowl of salsa, packaged crackers, oil for dipping bread. Question 68. What does the FDA Food Code require of a water system in a food establishment? Meets peak water demand, meets the average water demand, contains sufficient levels of calcium, contains sufficient levels of magnesium. Question 69. A food worker at a nursing home reports that her roommate was diagnosed with norovirus over the weekend. What must the manager do? Symptoms. Restrict to non-food duties. Notify the regulatory authority. Exclude until the roommate does not show. Ask the worker to double hand wash before serving the guests. Question 70. An employee is reheating meatballs that will be hot held at a catering event. Which temperature must the meatballs reach while being reheated? 135 degrees Fahrenheit 57 degrees Celsius, 145 degrees Fahrenheit 63 degrees Celsius, 155 degrees Fahrenheit 68 degrees Celsius, 165 degrees Fahrenheit 74 degrees Celsius. Question 71. Which practice could cause cross-contact with one of the 8 major food allergens? Nuggets, frying French fries in the same oil as chicken, cutting fruits and vegetables on the same cutting board, rinsing a pitcher for water after serving orange juice in it, using the same spatula for cooking scrambled and fried eggs. Question 72. How should a manager prevent backflow in a food establishment, if an air gap is not practical? Install an automatic faucet. Use a backflow prevention device. Hire a plumber to check sinks weekly. Train employees to monitor water levels. Question 73. What is the correct order of steps in the hand-washing process? Wet, rinse, apply soap, scrub, dry, apply soap, scrub, rinse, wet, dry, wet, apply soap, scrub, rinse, dry, apply soap, wet, scrub, rinse, dry. Question 74. A food worker decides to thaw a pound of ground beef by submerging it under running water. What is the maximum temperature that the water can be? 41 degrees Fahrenheit 5 degrees Celsius, 70 degrees Fahrenheit 21 degrees Celsius, 86 degrees Fahrenheit 38 degrees Celsius, 135 degrees Fahrenheit 57 degrees Celsius. Question 75. How should a food manager prevent cross-contact? Restrict sick food workers to cleaning tasks. Avoid disclosing a customer's food allergy to employees. Provide separate ware items to handle dishes for allergic customers. Ask cooks to rinse hands and re-glove before preparing dishes for allergic customers. Question 76. Where should liquid waste, such as mop water, be disposed of? In a service sink, in a food preparation sink, in the outdoor dumpster area, in a hazardous waste container. Question 77. What should a food worker scrub for at least 15 seconds during the hand-washing process? Hands only, hands and wrists only, hands, wrists, and lower arms only, hands, wrists, and arms just past the elbow. Question 78. A large pot of chicken noodle soup needs to be cooled. What is an acceptable method to cool the soup? Use an ice paddle to stir the soup. Place the pot of soup in the freezer. Place the pot of soup in front of an open window. Cover the soup with a tight lid and put it in the refrigerator. Question 79. According to the FDA, what is in one of the 8 major food allergen groups? Pork, walnuts, avocado, chocolate. Question 80. When would a food establishment be required to obtain a variance from the local regulatory authority? Sprouting broccoli seeds, washing raw fruit with chemicals, using a non-continuous cooking process, learning that an employee was diagnosed with norovirus. Question 81. How often should a pair of single-use gloves be changed if an employee is working continuously on the same task? After 1 hour, after 2 hours, after 3 hours, after 4 hours. Question 82. An employee has cooled a pan of mashed potatoes from 135 degrees Fahrenheit 57 degrees Celsius to 68 degrees Fahrenheit 20 degrees Celsius in 2 hours. How much time does she have left to cool the mashed potatoes to 41 degrees Fahrenheit 5 degrees Celsius? 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. Question 83. According to the FDA, what is in one of the 8 major food allergen groups? Corn, mango, soy milk, sesame seeds. Question 84. What is an example of a critical limit in a HACCP plan? Cook the pork chops for longer. Take the temperature of pork chops. Cook pork chops to prevent a biological hazard. Cook pork chops to an internal temperature of 145 degrees Fahrenheit 63 degrees Celsius. Question 85. After which task would a manager ask an employee to wash their hands? Folding clean linens, sanitizing the countertops, cutting vegetables for 2 hours, using tongs to place pastries in a display case. Question 86. What is the minimum temperature requirement for hot holding macaroni and cheese for a buffet? 135 degrees Fahrenheit 57 degrees Celsius, 145 degrees Fahrenheit 63 degrees Celsius, 155 degrees Fahrenheit 68 degrees Celsius, 165 degrees Fahrenheit 74 degrees Celsius. Question 87. What should a manager do to prevent deliberate contamination of food by employees? Explain how to label working containers. Ask employees to report anything suspicious. Check employees' pockets before their shift begins. Assign employees with a cough or runny nose to cleaning tasks. Question 88. If the regulatory authority sees food safety violations during an inspection, what should they do first? Point it out and correct it. Make a note to report it later. Scold the food workers responsible. Talk to the manager about it after the inspection. Question 89. What must a food worker do if they have fingernail polish or fake nails? Work only in non-food areas. Keep fingernails under 1 4-inch long. Wear gloves when working with food. Apply a clear protectant coat to their nails. Question 90. What is the minimum temperature requirement for hot holding tomato basil soup at a salad bar? 135 degrees Fahrenheit 57 degrees Celsius, 145 degrees Fahrenheit 63 degrees Celsius, 155 degrees Fahrenheit 68 degrees Celsius, 165 degrees Fahrenheit 74 degrees Celsius. Question 91. What should a manager do to prevent deliberate contamination of food by customers? Allow supervised tours of the kitchen. Hire a security guard to watch for unusual activity. Do not allow customers in non-public areas of the facility. Avoid reusing packaged foods from customers who look suspicious. Question 92. How long must a manager maintain time and temperature freezing records after the service or sale of raw, ready-to-eat fish? 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days. Question 93. What kind of animal may be brought into an area of the food establishment where customers are generally allowed? Pets, service animals, animals without fur, emotional support animals. Question 94. What is the maximum temperature allowed while cold holding a container of salsa? 32 degrees Fahrenheit 0 degrees Celsius, 38 degrees Fahrenheit 3 degrees Celsius, 41 degrees Fahrenheit 5 degrees Celsius, 45 degrees Fahrenheit 7 degrees Celsius. Question 95. A manager is picking out a new set of frying pans for the kitchen. What material should he not select? Aluminum, cast iron, stainless steel, galvanized steel. Question 96. Over 20 customers who bought sliced ham at a deli have reported having severe nausea and vomiting. What must the manager do immediately? Pull the ham off the shelves, offer full refunds to all affected customers, close the deli and notify the regulatory authority, install a clean-in-place system for the meat slicer. Question 97. An employee pulls out his cell phone while slicing fruit. According to the FDA Food Code, what must the manager ask him to do? Apply hand sanitizer, wash the fruit thoroughly, discard any contaminated fruit and wash his hands, change to a task that does not require handling food. Question 98. What is the maximum temperature allowed while cold holding boiled eggs at a salad bar? 32 degrees Fahrenheit 0 degrees Celsius, 38 degrees Fahrenheit 3 degrees Celsius, 41 degrees Fahrenheit 5 degrees Celsius, 45 degrees Fahrenheit 7 degrees Celsius. Question 99. If placed inside a cabinet, where may packaged single-use items be stored? Restrooms, locker rooms, garbage rooms, mechanical rooms. Question 100. A restaurant manager has received 8 complaints from unrelated customers who have ordered dinners containing chicken. How should the manager respond? Order a new shipment of chicken. Wait to see if more customers report symptoms. Advise customers to order chicken at their own risk. Close the restaurant and notify the regulatory authority. Question 101. An employee is chewing gum when she arrives to her shift. Under what circumstance may the manager allow her to chew gum? If she wears single-use gloves. If she does not handle ready-to-eat foods. If she does not blow bubbles with the gum. If she only chews the gum in the break room. Question 102. Which food is classified as a time/temperature control for safety food, TCS/PHF? Garlic oil dip, wheat bread, raw broccoli, uncooked beans. Question 103. How often should most thermometers, except for bimetallic, be calibrated? Once a week, every 4 hours, after each time it is used, as often as needed according to the manufacturer's instructions. Question 104. A manager is preparing to train some new employees. Which topic should she include, according to the FDA Food Code? Logging time, food allergy awareness, placing customer orders, restroom cleaning procedures. Question 105. An employee comes to work with an infected cut on her arm. What should a manager require her to do before working? Apply antibiotic ointment to the cut. Wear long sleeves that cover the cut. Cover the cut with a waterproof bandage. Cover the cut with a dry, tight-fitting bandage. Question 106. Which characteristic could qualify a food as time/temperature control for safety food, TCS/PHF? Neutral pH level, low oxygen level, low moisture content, high sodium content. Question 107. A food worker is learning how to clean and sanitize dishes in a 3-compartment sink. What is the third step of the 5-step process? Air dry the dishes. Place dishes in a sanitizing solution. Rinse the dishes with clear, clean water. Use soap and warm water to scrub the dishes. Question 108. A manager comes into the establishment in the morning to find that the water supply was shut off overnight. What action must he take first? Operations. Wait until the water is back on and resume. Contact neighboring facilities to see if their water is off. Close the establishment and notify the regulatory authority. Tap into the emergency water supply and resume operations. Question 109. Which scenario is considered a contamination event, requiring a written cleanup procedure, according to the FDA Food Code? An employee coughs frequently while serving food. A food worker eats food while preparing ready-to-eat food. A customer goes into anaphylactic shock and is hospitalized. A child vomits before making it to the restaurant bathroom. Question 110. Which of the following practices helps to control cross-contamination? Reusing linens for bread baskets. Storing utensils with the handle up. Wiping off a knife between cutting raw meat and bread. Storing products with more pathogens above other foods. Question 111. A food worker has several dirty plates and needs to start a dishwashing cycle. What should she do as she loads the dishwasher? Place the plates face down on the trays. Fit as many plates on the trays as possible. Scrape or rinse large food particles off the plates. Clean and sanitize the plates before loading them. Question 112. What is the manager's primary responsibility when giving a facility tour to a news reporter? To organize and tidy the kitchen beforehand, to ask employees to be on their best behavior, to protect any exposed food from contamination, to ensure that the reporter uses hand sanitizer before entering. Question 113. Which package of frozen food would be acceptable to receive? Chicken nuggets at 14 degrees Fahrenheit minus 10 degrees Celsius, berries soaking in their own juice, vegetables that are partially thawed, beef with small ice crystals on the inside. Question 114. How should a food worker avoid contaminating ready-to-eat food? Use a napkin as a barrier. Apply hand sanitizer first. Use tongs or other utensils. Use the thumb and pointer finger. Question 115. What is the maximum amount of time a food worker can continuously slice deli meat before needing to clean and sanitize the equipment? 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours. Question 116. When a manager learns about a food recall that affects her establishment, what should she do? Discard the food immediately. Isolate the food and keep it in a designated area. Leave the food out in the open for easy inspection. Finish serving it to current customers and then take it off the menu. Question 117. Employees frequently use a chlorine spray to sanitize counters. Where can they store the spray between uses? By the food preparation sink, on a shelf in the linen closet, on a shelf near the counters, in a cabinet, separate from food. Question 118. Which task would allow for bare-hand contact with ready-to-eat foods, without regulatory authority approval? Washing fruits and vegetables, restocking a pastry display case, cutting vegetables for a veggie tray, serving highly susceptible populations. Question 119. While preparing different kinds of raw meat, when would an employee be required to clean and sanitize a food contact surface? When switching from steak to chicken, when switching from turkey to salmon, when switching from ground beef to duck, when switching from pork chops to ground pork. Question 120. Raw ground beef is being packaged to sell to customers at a grocery store. What must be included on the label? The slaughtering date, description of how the beef was raised, instructions for handling the meat safely, the name of the food worker who packaged the meat. Question 121. What must a container of pesticides be labeled with? Caution, a use-by date, a manufacturer's label, only for use by professionals. Question 122. An employee has just received a large case of peanuts and needs to store it. Where should he store the case of peanuts? Under an open stairwell, in a food preparation room, in an employee break room, under the cleaning supplies. Question 123. What should be a characteristic of non-food contact surfaces for cleaning? Smooth, textured, corroded, absorbent. Question 124. According to the FDA, what are the two required parts of a consumer advisory? A disclosure and a reminder, a public notice and a memo, a new menu and a display case, a warning and a signed agreement. Question 125. What would be the proper shelf order for a food worker to place raw fish, pastries, and a raw turkey in the refrigerator, from top to bottom? Raw fish, pastries, raw turkey, pastries, raw fish, raw turkey, pastries, raw turkey, raw fish, raw turkey, raw fish, pastries. Question 126. How should a food worker label a working container of food? With a red X, with the label "Do Not Use," with their name and the date, with the common name of the food. Question 127. How often should a food employee replace a cloth napkin that lines a basket of breadsticks? Once a day, every 2 hours, when it is time to launder the linens, each time the basket is refilled for a new customer. Question 128. A hospital cook is preparing the dinner menu for hospital patients. Which menu item should not be included on the menu? Grilled salmon, chicken stir-fry, spaghetti and meatballs, hamburgers, cooked to order. Question 129. Food allergy. If they want the check. Protein found in meat. It is the immune system reaction to food when food eaten mistakenly considers it harmful, which then releases chemicals for an allergic reaction. Tell them to wait and see if it gets better. Question 130. How many people suffer from food allergies? Provide a standard menu. 15 million. Only reveal ingredients if the customer asks. Corn, rice, beef, chicken, pork, apples, oranges, bananas. Question 131. Food allergen. The health inspector. Serve it with the rest of the table's food on a large tray. Bacteria releasing toxins. Is the food's protein that causes the reaction? Question 132. What are the symptoms of food allergies? The symptoms may be mild, rashes, hives, itching or swelling, or severe, trouble breathing, wheezing or loss of consciousness. A type of food poisoning. Have any available staff member run the food. Tomatoes, potatoes, onions, garlic, pepper, salt, sugar, water. Question 133. What triggers an allergic reaction to food? Both are equally prone. Fat found in dairy. It occurs when the immune system mistakenly attacks a food protein that has been ingested, triggering the sudden release of chemicals including histamine, aspirin. Question 134. What is anaphylaxis? Yes, with antibiotics. Have any available staff member run the food. It is a serious allergic reaction that occurs rapidly and may cause death. Provide a standard menu. Question 135. How many deaths happen in the United States due to food allergic reactions? Every day. Wipe everything down with a dry towel. 150 to 200 deaths in the United States. Allergic reaction. Question 136. Do children or adults are more prone to food allergies? Viruses multiplying in the stomach. Hair loss and brittle nails. Children are prone more to food allergies. Crohn's disease. Question 137. How many times per minute do people have to go to an emergency room? Every day. Elderly are more prone. Every 3 minutes, which also is 200,000 ER visits per year. Wear gloves at all times. Question 138. How many items can cause allergic reactions? Fever and chills. 5 million. Yes, with antihistamines. 160 food items. Question 139. What are the big 8 allergens? Aspirin, milk, eggs, soybeans, fish, tree nuts, peanuts, shellfish, wheat, bacteria-releasing toxins, oats, barley, rye, spelt, kamut, triticale, sorghum, millet. Question 140. What are symptoms for allergic reactions? Nausea, wheezing, swelling parts of the body, vomiting, diarrhea. If they want the check. Crohn's disease. Transfer of proteins from one food to another. Question 141. Is there a cure for a food allergic reaction? Offer them a glass of water. Tell the manager to handle it. 5 million. No cures for food allergies as of right now. Question 142. What's the popular medicine that the ER may use or the ambulance once you call for help as of 911? Every week. The most common medicine is epinephrine. If they want the check. Occurs when food is cooked to the wrong temperature. Question 143. Food allergy affects the immune system. Occurs when bacteria multiplies on food. Anyone can take the order and pass it on. Only buy from local farms. Question 144. Food intolerance effects. Seat them near the kitchen. All 160 allergens. Expiration date and lot number. Digestive system. Question 145. Gluten. All 160 allergens. Protein found in grain. Irritable bowel syndrome. If they want the check. Question 146. A condition generally involving stomach digestive systems that is usually not life-threatening is called viruses multiplying in the stomach. Offer them a complimentary drink. Corn, rice, beef, chicken, pork, apples, oranges, bananas. Food intolerance. Question 147. A genetic disease that interferes with the absorption of food is called blurred vision and hearing loss. Viruses multiplying in the stomach. Ibuprofen. Celiac disease. Question 148. An intolerance to a protein that is found in common grains is called all 160 allergens. Irritable bowel syndrome occurs when food is stored improperly. Gluten intolerance. Question 149. A food allergy is a condition involving a person's immune system. Provide a standard menu. Serve it last. Wear gloves at all times. Question 150. Cross contact. Wear gloves at all times. Use standard plates and utensils. Serve it last. Occurs when one food comes into contact with another food and proteins mix. Question 151. Cross-contamination. Serve it with the rest of the table's food on a large tray. Cross-contamination. Transfer of disease-causing organisms from one source to another. Only the top 3. Question 152. Personal hygiene can cause blurred vision and hearing loss. Cross-contact. Use standard plates and utensils. Write it down on a standard ticket. Question 153. What special care should you do when seating a person with a food allergy? Remove utensils and clean and sanitize the table, laminated menu, and condiments. Rinse with hot water only. Wipe everything down with a dry towel. Protein found in meat. Question 154. What's the secret ingredient policy? Foodborne illness. Anyone can take the order and pass it on. At a minimum, identify if allergen is used in recipe. Coughing and sneezing. Question 155. How to take special orders. Serve it last. Transfer of proteins from one food to another. Handled by designated person who is taking the order. Get guest name. Tell chef immediately. Allergic reaction. Question 156. Identifying special orders. Every week. Cover, a sticker, different type of plates, special toothpick, double plating. Parasites absorbing nutrients. A type of food poisoning. Question 157. How to confirm the special order with who? Digestive system. Cross-contamination. A genetic digestive disorder. The kitchen and chef. Question 158. Steps to serving the special order. Cook all food to 165 F. Parasites absorbing nutrients. Foodborne illness. Ensure nothing is added or spilled into or onto it. Carry order by hand. Keep separate from other orders, handled by designated person. Question 159. Check with guest about foodborne illness. 50 million. Tomatoes, potatoes, onions, garlic, pepper, salt, sugar, water. Meal acceptable? Met needs? Any questions? Thanks. Question 160. How to deal with anaphylactic shock. A genetic digestive disorder. Never use secret ingredients. Recognize symptoms. Do not leave the guest alone. Call 911 immediately. Explain allergic reaction and report epinephrine use. Have any available staff member run the food. Question 161. How many allergens by law have to be labeled? Use a different cutting board but the same knife. Blurred vision and hearing loss. Write it down on a standard ticket. The big 8 have to be labeled. Question 162. Statements to food labels. Both are equally prone. Blurred vision and hearing loss. Have to have either a containment statement or a manufactured by or just allergy information. 5 million. Question 163. To ensure food safety you must read labels, check shipments, store foods in separate containers on shelf properly. A type of food poisoning. Crohn's disease. Physical contamination of food. Question 164. Keep separate food equipment separate unless you can't, then what procedures would you use instead as another option? Wash, rinse, and sanitize everything thoroughly. Wash hands and get new gloves. A type of food poisoning. Celiac disease. Cross-contamination. Question 165. The best time to tell guests that alcohol service will be stopped is when they order another drink, when they walk in, when they ask for the check, when they start slurring their words. Question 166. A father and his son are celebrating the father's 75th birthday. Drink for drink, who will most likely have a higher BAC? The son, the bartender. They will have the same BAC, the father. Question 167. Denying alcohol service to a pregnant guest is considered which type of discrimination? Race, gender, religion, age. Question 168. Which is considered a non-judgmental statement when stopping alcohol service to a guest? You are drunk. I can't serve you because you are a liability. I'm sorry, but to serve you more alcohol is against the law. You've had too much to drink. Question 169. Under which condition should a guest's ID be rechecked? Only when they order their first drink, every time they order a drink, only if they look under 30, anytime the guest leaves the establishment and returns. Question 170. Once alcohol is in the bloodstream, it will reach the brain in a few seconds, minutes, days, hours. Question 171. What percentage of alcohol does a bottle of 80 proof vodka contain? 60, 80, 40, 20. Question 172. Which IDs are acceptable for checking a guest's age? Student IDs and library cards, credit cards and utility bills, military IDs and passports, birth certificates and social security cards. Question 173. Consequences for not following the law when serving or selling alcohol include a warning and a slap on the wrist, only a fine, only termination of employment, lawsuits, fines, and slash or criminal charges. Question 174. If a server notices guests are selling drugs while in the establishment but does not report it to the authorities, the server has committed which type of violation? Dram shop, criminal, administrative, civil. Question 175. A guest orders a drink that contains 4.5 ounces of 80 proof liquor. Approximately how many drinks does this beverage contain? 1, 4, 2, 3. Question 176. Using an ID reader while checking IDs can make it easier to detect fake IDs with 100% accuracy, automatically call the police if the ID is fake, display data associated with the ID such as age and other information, record the guest's credit card information. Question 177. Offering food or water and refraining from overpouring are ways to prevent a guest from becoming intoxicated, help a guest sober up quickly, increase the guest's BAC, cure a hangover. Question 178. A guest enjoying a few cocktails decides to order something to eat. Which kind of food is recommended and why? Carbohydrates like bread to absorb the alcohol, fatty, high-protein foods. They are digested slowly, which slows the movement of alcohol into the small intestine. Sugary foods to counteract the alcohol. Salty foods like pretzels to encourage drinking water. Question 179. How can a server determine if a guest is 21? Add 21 to the year that the guest was born. Subtract 21 from the current year. Look for a red outline on the ID. Ask the guest their age. Question 180. A guest is not showing signs of intoxication but a server who has been monitoring the guest is concerned about the number of drinks the guest has consumed. What should the server do in this situation? Offer them a stronger drink. Continue serving the guest since they show no signs. Stop serving alcohol to the guest because the guest may have a tolerance to alcohol. Call the police immediately. Question 181. It is illegal to serve alcohol to intoxicated guests, guests who are dancing, guests over 21, guests who are eating. Question 182. During civil lawsuit proceedings regarding alcohol service, courts will try to determine if the guest was wearing a seatbelt, server contributed to the injury, establishment had security cameras, guest had a high tolerance. Question 183. A guest who has consumed several drinks asks for a food menu. When ordering, the guest has trouble focusing on the menu and forgets the order. Which sign of intoxication does this suggest? Impaired motor coordination, relaxed inhibitions, impaired judgment, slowed reaction time. Question 184. A guest presents an intact driver's license with a photo that resembles the guest, however, the license expired a month ago. What should the server/seller do? Refuse alcohol service, ask the guest to sign a waiver, serve the guest, but only one drink, confiscate the ID. Question 185. If a large person and a small person of the same sex and age drink the same amount, the large person will have a higher BAC because large people absorb alcohol faster, lower BAC because alcohol travels out of the body quicker in a large person, higher BAC than the small person because alcohol travels out of the body quicker in a small person, same BAC as the small person. Question 186. If a liquor law is violated, the liquor authority can issue a citation to the owner and the employee who violated the law. Employee only, owner only, guest only. Question 187. What should a manager do if a guest displaying visible signs of intoxication refuses assistance and attempts to leave the premises with the intention of driving away, threaten to call the police, ignore the guest and let them leave, physically restrain the guest, take the guest's car keys? Question 188. What is the best way to monitor alcohol consumption when guests move from the bar to the dining area? Stop serving them entirely, assume they only had one drink, ask the guest how many drinks they had, count and record the number of drinks on the back of the guest's check and pass it around as the guest moves. Question 189. A server is checking IDs for a group of guests and suspects that they are using fake IDs. The server should confiscate the IDs and call the police, ask them for a bribe, refuse service to the group and follow company policy on handling fake IDs, serve them anyway to avoid a confrontation. Question 190. When servers or sellers break state, county, or municipal alcohol laws when serving or selling alcohol, the server or seller will only receive a warning, could be placed on probation, fined, or given jail time, will only be fired from their job, will be banned from the state. Question 191. Being civilly liable means a server or seller of alcohol can be fined by the liquor authority, can be held responsible for payment of damages, can have their liquor license revoked, can be sent to prison. Question 192. An ID is valid if it is laminated, current, intact, issued by a foreign government. Question 193. What is BAC? The legal age to drink, the type of alcohol consumed, the amount of alcohol in a person's blood, the amount of food in a person's stomach. Question 194. Which strategy is not effective in preventing a guest from becoming intoxicated? Offering the guest drinks mixed with tonic or soda to decrease the amount of alcohol in each glass, offering the guest water, offering the guest food, refraining from overpouring. Question 195. Today is June 21, 2019. Based on these birth dates, which guest is old enough to drink alcohol? May 24, 1998, December 1, 2000, July 4, 2001, August 15, 1999. Question 196. What percentage of alcohol is 60 proof vodka? 15%, 30%, 60%, 120%. Question 197. What should servers do if they see guests with illegal drugs? Alert the manager, confront the guests directly, call the police immediately, ignore it. Question 198. On a licensed premise, when can a 20-year-old drink alcohol? In most states, it is illegal to drink if younger than 21 years of age, if they are eating a meal, if they only drink beer or wine, if they are with their parents. Question 199. Guests who sway when sitting or standing, have difficulty picking up objects, and spill drinks or showing which sign of intoxication? Impaired motor coordination, relaxed inhibitions, impaired judgment, slowed reaction time. Question 200. How many drinks are contained in a 60-ounce pitcher of beer with an ABV of 5%? 2, 5, 3, 6. Question 201. A server can be charged with a crime for serving alcohol to a guest who is eating, over 65, underage, pregnant. Question 202. When comparing the photo on an ID to the guest who presents it, which features are most likely to have changed since the ID was issued, making them potentially unreliable indicators of the ID's authenticity? Height, hair length and color, eye color, facial structure. Question 203. An example of an acceptable type of identification is a passport, student ID, library card, birth certificate. Question 204. When can physical force be used to prevent an intoxicated guest from driving? Do not use physical force to prevent a guest from driving. Anytime the guest tries to drive, only if the manager is present, only if the guest is aggressive. Question 205. A food handler's duties regarding food safety include all of the following practices except gross potential income, periodically test food for illness-causing microorganisms, zoning, secondary market. Question 206. What is the most direct cause of customer loyalty? Eminent domain, high food safety standards, steering, Federal Housing Administration. Question 207. What is the best way to prevent poor food safety? Employee training, taxation, Veterans Affairs, police power. Question 208. A food safety policy is a statement that lists the manner in which an establishment will maintain a food-safe environment. Essentially, this lists the of the establishment with respect to the level of food safety to be maintained, environmental regulations, market data approach, blockbusting, goals. Question 209. All of the following are the most common critical control points, CCPs, except blockbusting, police power, customer service, is cheat. Question 210. Which agency publishes the Food Code? 20%, FDA, Fair Housing Act, Quitclaim Deed. Question 211. Are the items of food handling most likely to be vulnerable to hazards? Critical control points, net operating income, is cheat, eminent domain. Question 212. Minor violations may be granted upwards of days for correction. Agent, environmental regulations, warranty deed, 90. Question 213. Local health codes establish requirements for all of the following subjects except price controls, building codes, Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, Fannie Mae. Question 214. Normally the establishment has up to days to correct detected violations. Market data approach, quitclaim deed, cost approach, 10.